Thanks very much. With the price of cocaine falling as traffickers bring the drug into the UK by new routes, the battle against drug abuse is more challenging than ever.
So, just what should be happening to try to turn the tide? Well, Brian Paddick is a former senior police officer in the Met, and Sarah Graham now works for Frank, the government's anti-drug campaign. Both of you, thanks very much indeed for being with us.
Good morning.
People used to talk about cocaine as the posh person's drug. It was the jet-set drug, and that seems to have changed.
Well, lots of people on the street now use it. Crack cocaine is a really addictive drug. People are dying from using cocaine. Mules who are bringing the drug into the country, they're swallowing packets of cocaine which explode in their stomachs, they're dying of heart attacks. People have got to realise when they're sitting at their dinner parties sniffing their line of cocaine, people are dying to get that cocaine on their table.
OK, and what about your work at Frank? Have you noticed, as the price of cocaine actually drops, that perhaps the demographic is changing, different people are getting access to it?
Well, I set up and ran a stimulant service for Involve in Surrey, and in the 2.5 years that I was running that service, we definitely saw that the demographic was changing as the price was dropping. My clients were a whole range of people, everybody from, I had a lot of builders, people in the trades, right up to city boy traders and very wealthy people.
And Brian Paddick, it feels like kind of, every few months we do a new report about government crackdown on drugs and all the rest of it, and yet there seems to be ever more drugs coming into the country, and that's why prices seem to be dropping.
Well, it's because the demand is there. You see celebrities allegedly photographed sniffing the stuff. It's become socially acceptable, and we've got to make it socially unacceptable. We did it with drinking and driving. We can do it with cocaine. People have got to realise the real cost of cocaine and that it is not acceptable, whether you pay for it yourself or whether you steal in order to get the drug.
We have got a strange situation in this country that heroin is a Class A drug, and many of the people who consider taking cocaine or who take cocaine at dinner parties would never consider going near heroin. And yet cocaine has some very serious health implications, as Brian just said, in terms of heart attacks, damage to your nose, damage to your mental health. And yet people take cocaine quite casually, not realising that it is a psychologically very addictive substance that can really take you down.
I know you don't want to talk about this too much, but you yourself you used drugs, and was that a particular? Did you find it affected you in the ways you've just described?
Absolutely. I was one of those people. The first time I took cocaine in the Groucho Club, I was a media worker. I bought into that whole showbiz lifestyle thing. I was surrounded by wealthy celebrity people, people working in the media. I bought into that dream of cocaine, not educating myself, not realising just how serious this substance is. I wish that I'd gone to Frank before I took cocaine and got all the facts about it, but I didn't.
What did it do to your life?
Over a period of time, at first I was one of those casual users every week, well, sort of occasionally, then every weekend, then slowly it took over to the point I couldn't go out without using it. Ultimately, I ended up not being able to function at all without using it, and ended up in rehab for 8 months.
Yeah, Brian, to what extent is this a problem about social attitudes and the rest about policing, i.e., the police taking it off the streets or customs and excise into interrupting the supply?
It's very difficult to interrupt the supply. What this UN report says is because the route through the Caribbean has been cut off to some extent, there's now a new route through West Africa particularly. There will always be a route through for the drugs if there is the demand for it. So the only real way to tackle it is to tackle the demand, and that means educating people, not just about the health effects, but the fact that people are dying to get the cocaine into their hands.
Is that saying that on a law and order basis, the battle of drugs cannot be won?
I don't think it can. I don't think it can, because even when you see these high-profile cases of large seizures of drugs, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
I think that I sit on an ACPO committee there, and I think that a lot of really good work is done, and a lot of work is done behind the scenes. So I think it's quite defeatist to say that we've just got to put our hands up and roll over. I don't think we have. But I think that it's really important that people educate themselves and that we look at why it is there's such demand for this substance in Britain. We work too hard, we're too stressed, a lot of people have self-worth, self-esteem issues. These are the issues we need to be addressing. Why are we so unhappy that so many people think that the only way they can have a good time is to snort a load of cocaine?
OK. Thank you very much, Sarah Graham and Brian Paddick. Thank you both.
Yeah, both. Thanks very much indeed for being with us here.
7:45. You're watching Breakfast from BBC News. The main stories this morning.